I talked to my sister's boyfriend. I feel like he's kind of like my brother. I don't know. They'll get married eventually, I think. They've been together like forever. But I don't know. He's like the best. I hate graffiti. Why do people do graffiti here, here, and here? It really bothers me. I'm like, let's keep the walking trail nice, folks. But, speaking of things, like, I don't like that. I don't like when people do graffiti on like public spaces or, because it's not right. I know some people are like, but the Banksy people, they can do that. But if it's a public space, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to everybody. And it just doesn't seem right that people do graffiti and all this kind of stuff that just makes places seem not as, enjoyable. Like, I know there's various reasons why people do graffiti. I don't really care why. Just don't do it. But like those people would listen to me. They would not. But here's another weird thing that I saw today. So I'm walking and I look up and on a power line, there's shoes hanging off the power line. And I don't know why. Like, why is that happening? Like, why are people doing that? It's very, very confusing to see things like that. I'm like, there's just a lot of weird activity that you see sometimes. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know why. But anyway, it's pretty quiet this time of day on the walking trail. Maybe because I guess it's too warm for people right now. It's about 70 degrees, I think, maybe 71. I don't know. I don't think it's hot, but apparently this is considered hot weather. I don't think it is, but yeah, so yeah, I've been trying to do more walking back here on the walking trail because even though I'll see occasional things, I'm like, what is that? This is strange. It feels a little bit safer to walk on a walking trail sometimes. And I mean, I feel safe in our city, but sometimes I just get tired of activity. Like seeing a homeless guy that was acting like he wanted to punch me one day. I'm like, no, I don't need to see that. And some people are like, oh my gosh, I cannot walk if I see these things. But I disagree. I feel like we need to take our communities back and we need to be out there as people walking because cities are walkable when people go out and walk in them. Although some people say in some cities, oh, there's no sidewalks and they can't walk. I don't know. That's unfortunate. I don't know why some cities are constructed that way. That's unfortunate. I feel like there should be walking trails and sidewalks in every city and town. And it's funny because I heard there were some communities where the city planner did not have sidewalks because they didn't want people to walk past their neighborhood. So I feel like it's a balance. Like some people act like, oh, they want to have public spaces, but not near their house. But I do think there should be public spaces. I just think people need to respect them more sometimes. And I'm like, if you have a nice public space that could be nice, then everybody should treat it well. Although the problem being is, what is it the people, I know a lot of it's mental health issues. A lot of this has to do with the fact, like, there needs to be more mental health services just to help people that are homeless. And I know some of them are on drugs. It's just sad. But I feel like there should be more services that help people. And then maybe we wouldn't have all those issues. But anyway, it's just you see a lot of things when you're out walking. And if you're going to walk, just expect to see things. But it's always an adventure. And I get tired of how they make people feel like that they shouldn't go walking, that you can't go walking by yourself. But not everybody has that luxury. Like I knew years ago, if I never wanted to drive, because I don't like driving, that I had to be willing and ready to walk miles. And that's the thing. If you're not going to drive, you need to be ready and willing to walk mile upon mile. And you have to be ready to walk many miles and to take public transportation many miles. Like you have to be up for that. And you have to have a game plan. Because I think some people think, oh, if they're not going to drive, they can't go anywhere. No, you're limiting yourself. You can go anywhere you want. And I mean, I have actually been many places that people who drive have not been, because I choose to, like, I used to travel more when I was younger. I don't have the financial flexibility to do that now. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you could travel if you want to, but this is reality. Like, I have bills and I have to pay for having a place to live and food to eat and things like that. Like, I have bills, and sometimes I like to buy clothes, and I think that's okay. And I make that, like, for people that have unlimited income, or they have like somebody who supports them in some way, yeah, they can do those things. But I never had that. Like, when I was 18, it's like I went to college and I paid my own way every day, all the way, because back in the days, my dad was part of that boomer generation that just believe you're 18 and you're gone. You go do it yourself. Like, he didn't pay for me to go to college. He didn't pay. You're 18, you're gone. And you know how I found out? Because there were a couple of years that I lived at home in my early 20s, and I would never do that again, because it was just like, he was like, this is my house. I don't want you here. Move out. That was just how it was with the boomers. Like, a lot of the boomers did not want their kids to live at home. You know, they just wanted everybody out of their house. They wanted people. So from a young age, I've been financially independent, taking care of myself. That's just how it is. Like, you just did it yourself. Like, you went and you did it. So, like, I wasn't from a kind of financial background where I had my parents paying for me to go to college or into my 20s and beyond, like, where I could live with them. So, and then the fun bonus was I have a younger sibling that I've been taking care of financially for about 16 years. And my parents took care of her for a couple of years. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, like, poor me. No, it's not poor me. This is just reality. This is just my reality. Like, I know some people are like, you need to have like escapism, story time in your like videos, and your videos need to be escape so other people can like get away from their hardships in life and like feel like they have a place to rest. But I don't entirely agree with that, because I feel like you can be honest and you can be relatable without having to always be escapism. I just think it's better to be realistic, because I feel like that's why everybody, especially in America, this is my thought about the whole American dream idea, why it's just so unattainable for a lot of people, is because they were sold a story that wasn't quite factual. Unless you come from a certain background where you have somebody that will bankroll your being able to go to college, being able to travel around Europe and do all those things. Because when I was younger, I used to be like, well, how come? Because I tried once. I was going to go to the UK. Didn't work out. I had to get a job. Like, I almost tried, but then my mom kind of pointed out to me, Julia, you cannot afford to do that. You need to get a job. So yes, this has just been my reality. I got to go to Hawaii, and I've been to other parts of the United States, but I haven't been able to travel abroad because I've just had bills in life, and I have to pay for myself. And I'm sure if I had a higher paying job, yeah, I could do all those things. But my reality is I have to pay for myself, and I've been supporting a younger sibling for about 15 years. And that's been my reality. So I don't have lots of expendable income. And I would always be comparing myself, not that I feel sorry for myself, but I'm like, other people would be like, well, if you just saved your money and you didn't do this and you didn't do that, you could travel. And I thought about it. I guess I could have. Maybe I could have traveled abroad if I never bought clothes or I never went out and got coffee. That's probably all true. But I guess I just decided that I wanted to do a few things for myself. I wanted to enjoy myself to some degree. Although I've decided that this is the year that I'm going to be cutting back, like, quite a bit. Hi, how you doing? Like, I'm cutting back considerably, and I'm going to become a reseller. I want to sell books because I have a lot of books and I've been thinking about this for a while. I do love books, okay? But I just have too many books. And I'm not a minimalist, but I don't want to have things that I'm not looking at all the time. And I've decided this is the year I want to start reselling a lot of books, and I'm going to be sharing in my YouTube video coming up soon. I'm going to get this all set up. I'm going to start selling some books and some other things because I'm like, you know what? Why not? That's what I'm going to do because I like to share about living in reality. And there's a lot of people that do. Like, there's a lot of home cleaning channels. There's a lot of cooking channels. And I think it's better to be honest than to act like, oh, I'm escapism and there's never like financial uncertainty. Getting back to this thing where a lot of people think, oh, like I should be able to do all these different things that they see people with a certain affluent background can do, because honestly, okay, here's another truth, another hardcore truth about boomers. Boomers wanted to do whatever they could do, and it doesn't matter what political persuasion they are. Unitarian, that's a religion. Libertarian, Republican, Democrat. They wanted to do what they wanted to do, and they wanted to have the incomes, and they all took, okay, all of them. I can't say that they're like, the boomer generation took so much and they expected so much and they got a lot of things because after World War II, this is the way it was. The GIs fought the war. I had a grandpa, he fought in 2 of them. They fought in the wars. And then they're like, you know what? Like, I deserve to have a house, and they got that under the GI Bill. A lot of people have benefited from certain programs, like, social safety nets used to be better, even among Republicans. Like, there was talk about how college was almost becoming free up until Reagan. So it's just funny how you have all these boomers who talk about pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but do you know how cheap houses were? Like, and bread, like you could buy a loaf of bread for 40 cents. You could buy a bag of rice for 20 cents. Like, compared, like, the percentage of your income that went to food and housing in 1960, 1970, even 1985 was a much smaller percentage than today. So it's just funny. So you had the boomers, they did everything for themselves. They were not they weren't thinking about other people. None of them did, okay? So they didn't think about the future. They created this debt situation in personal finance and national debt. And then this is what's sad. They made Gen X, they made millennials, and now Gen Z feel guilty when they didn't achieve what they achieved so easily. Like, in 1985, it was so easy to go buy a house. You could be just like, even if you didn't go to college, you could buy a house outright in most parts of the country. You can't do that nowadays. Like, certain people can, and that's great for you. But I feel like there's a lot of people being made to feel like, oh, what have I done wrong? Why have I not managed my finances correctly? Like, it's become quite absurd. Like, I guess there was this man talking about, okay, he was working full time. Okay, he was working at a hotel full time, and I guess he was busking on the side, I guess, at like different restaurants. I guess that's like doing stand-up comedy and stuff. And so one day he went to his boss, okay, and he told his boss, can you just pay me a little bit more, like a living wage, okay? And the boss basically said to him, oh, well, could you just get a roommate? And he suggested all these things that were improbable because the guy was already living like in a studio apartment that was barely 300 square feet. And most of his income went to rent, okay? And the boss made him feel like, well, if you just pulled yourself up by your bootstraps and you got a roommate, like, who's going to want to be a roommate with somebody else in a 300 square foot apartment? And why would you want to do that? And it's like, and the CEO of the company, he didn't have to do that. And his salary was much higher percentage. Like, like right now when they're like, oh my gosh, They raised minimum wage at Starbucks, and now they have to raise the price of the drinkies. No, they don't. They did not have to do that. They could have paid their workers more. And I know a lot of people are like, no, they couldn't do this. But when you look at, I'm not talking about mom and pop businesses. It might be harder for a mom and pop business to do that. But corporations, they definitely could. They could have paid their employees more without there having to be minimum wage increases. And then now they're saying, oh, because of all the increases in wages and the cost of living and supply shortages, that we need to increase the price of food. And the price of food in the stores has gone up by like 150% on many different products. So I know some people are like, oh, hi, how you doing, Khaled? So like, we've been sold this American dream that's it's a fallacy, really. And I'm not trying to be negative, guys. I know people are like, oh, be so positive, like be try and like be escapism. And I do try to have positive content. I'm not trying to be anti-escapism, but this is the reality. Like, why are there shoes in the power line? Like, I ask myself this. Like, I always have these philosophical thoughts, and some people are like, why do you think about stuff like this? And I'm like, the reason there are shoes in the power line is because there's a homeless person that threw them up there. But why did the homeless person throw them up there? Because they need mental health services that don't exist for them, and they don't have the help that they need to get. And some people need to be like, would just say, well, back in the good old days, they would just put everybody in an insane asylum, and that's horrible. I don't agree with that. We have evolved as a culture. We could help these people find services and a place to live so they don't have so much time on their hands to be wandering around and throwing shoes up in a power line. To me, I don't know why somebody did that, but I feel like they did that because they wanted help, okay? I don't know. So, or they thought it was fun. I don't know the reason. I'm just speculating on that, but it could be. But here's another thing. Why is it that everything costs so much? Why is it that housing is not affordable? Why are you made, to feel like you're not working hard enough, or you didn't do something as good as your parents, like in your parents' generation? And this discussion will not impact people that are from more affluent backgrounds, but they have a social safety net where somebody has paid for them to go to school or live at their house. And if you came from a family that was middle class, but they expected you to move out at 18, get your own place, pay your own way in life, like tail end Gen X and elder millennials, that was the expectation. They're like, get out and go. And you could afford to do that like 20 years ago, but now you can't. And I think that's the only reason that younger people are still living at home in the US anyway, because we kind of have this culture that everybody's like, you need to get out. And I don't like that. And I kind of had a debate with my dad about that. I don't know why he thinks like this. I don't know what it is. Like, I know his family said they weren't like that, but for some reason he's just very like that. And he's very detached, but he only wants to think about his grandma. I don't know. I try not to dissect why he thinks these things, but he was very much part of that boomer generation that said, get out and go, make your own way in life. That's just the way it was back then, and they expected you to do it because he's like, my dad did it and you can do it too. And I'm like, okay. So me and my sisters did that, except for the younger sister who couldn't. I just carry her in life, and I will carry her in life forever. Although I had a big debate with him that I think he should support her, but he does not agree with me. He said no, that he shouldn't have to support her. And this has been, like, to me, I feel he should, but he says he doesn't have to. And I almost won 3 years ago. He agreed finally that they were going to help her. And then no, you're fine. But see, that's the thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with having issues. This is the thing, like, this similar situation, though completely different though, really, with my sister, is that I feel like they need to help her. I don't think people should be so draconian that they don't help their children. And this is kind of what I'm talking about with like the boomers, where they're making younger people feel bad that they can't buy a house, because I know the truth. I grew up in a time when houses were much cheaper, and I've seen houses go up by 160% in my area. And even like pre-pandemic, like housing was half the price it is now. And during the pandemic, people that didn't want to live in LA anymore or could work from anywhere came here, and they drove up the housing prices even more. So who can afford, like, if you had been a 19-year-old 25 years ago, even if you did have some like problems, life would have been cheaper. I'm just saying. Like, and that's one thing. I'm not saying people don't have issues, but cost of living, I don't know, in California, I just think it's a little ludicrous. But well, yeah, I think people should contribute. I don't think you should be 40 years old and not doing anything. But I guess I've always been so quiet about this little thing that bothers me, because I'm not escapism enough, I guess, for some YouTubers. Like, I wasn't escapey enough. But it was so, like, the whole debate with my dad when he won't take her back and he doesn't want to help her. And when you have to deal with a sibling that has certain issues where it's been a lot for me. And I've just been made to feel like I have to do it all myself. And she's a little bit better now, but that's because of me. And it's because of what I have done for her. But my dad doesn't want to do those things for her, and I really wish he would. I think he should. I don't know why he doesn't, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But he's just of the generation that, oh, you guys should get out, because I want my house to myself, so my wife can make me whatever I want to eat. I want this, make me that. Oh, baklava is too sugary when it's from the Mediterranean market in Redlands, but my grandma made it better. Make it for me. And I'm like, oh, whatever. You want to have your little life where everything's brought out to you on a tray, because I know that's how it's supposed to be. Tray. I don't know. That's just one little complaint I have with him. But I try not to let it taint how I feel too much, because I love him. He's fun in his own little way. I just wish that we saw more eye to eye on that. And I'm not trying to be mean to him. Like, I'm not trying to be mean to him. I just wish, but it's okay, because he told me, oh, you can do it, Julia. I said, I guess I can do it if you want me to, but I don't know. So at the end of the day, I'm not enough escapism for some YouTubers, because I guess they portray this unrealistic lifestyle, but I just don't think that's fair. And I think that's why a lot of people go on social media and they feel like it makes them feel bad, because I'm not saying be fake relatable. Like, some relatable content, it's just, I don't think that's relatable. There's some content that's just clearly not relatable, but I do think it's better to be realistic. I don't want to be that social media person that portrays something that's not realistic, Yeah, that's kind of something like with my dad too. Like, I felt like, my grandpa, I think he did better, because he said, oh, like, when I turned 60, I realized that my wife, like, did all these things for me, and that I should do more for her. And I feel like my grandpa had a change of heart, but there's just something about my dad. Like, recently he had to do more things, but this is the one thing, just because my mom was injured, and this is what he said, that, oh my goodness, Dad, no. He goes, I've done your job, and I've seen your job, and I don't want your job, and you need to get better so I don't have to do your job. I was like, oh, what? You had to weed the garden. Boo-hoo. You'll be okay, Dad. You had to make dinner, and it wasn't brought to you on a tray today. How sad. Poor you. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but yeah, just things like that. But, so, like, at the end of the day, I think it's okay not to always strive to be super like, escapism. Like, I think it's okay to be relatable on social media, because I believe, and I think this does make sense, and this is all related, I do think that's why so many people feel like when they look at social media, that they feel like it makes them feel bad about themselves, because you do have a group of people, like there's always gonna, like, look, I'm pro free market economy. I'm not into socialism. Socialism does not work. Communism does not work. It did not work. I know right now there's a big PR push out of China to make it seem like communism really works, but it doesn't, because you have, they're not really true communists as in the Marxist manifesto where all the workers live in a social egalitarian society. They aren't. There's an upward mobile, like middle class, upper class that benefits a lot. And it's a fallacy when they make you think, oh, like it failed in the Soviet Union, it's failed in Venezuela, it's failed in Colombia, like where people are standing in line for hours to buy toilet paper, regular people, or 9 people that have college degrees and good careers all have to share a 2-bedroom apartment in China, when you have all these empty high-rise apartments that they can't afford to live in, and regular people. So you have a highly upward mobile, like middle class, upper class in China. It's not as if like socialism is the answer or communism is the answer. I still believe in the free market economy. I just think in the US, honestly, and this is maybe true in European countries, but I don't think so as much, but in the US, like corporatism, like you have crony corporatism that's really taken it over. So we don't really exactly have a free market economy. We have too big to fail. Like we have corporations that get bailed out when they really should go away. Because if it was a true free market economy, you wouldn't let all these corporations just continue to go on when they are bankrupt. And if it was a true free market economy, I believe housing wouldn't be so out of control in prices. Like if it was a true free market economy, but it's not truly, like I'm not saying I want to get rid of, like I do want social safety nets, but I don't think we're a true free market economy. But anyway, whatever, like everybody has their own opinion on these things. I just think California is going to have to think about this more. Like I don't think you can let housing continue to spiral upward in price. There needs to be a change, and working people, middle class people, people that went to college, they should be able to afford a house when they graduate, because you could 20, 30 years ago, you know. Yeah, it just makes me feel like, I don't know, people get silly, and I sometimes like to think about things. I want to treat people nice. I want to be good to people. I don't want people to feel bad. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. I don't know. I'm too sensitive. Like I want a better future for everybody, and I want us to all feel good. And I think that's better than being escapism, like better than being escapism content. I don't want to be unrelatable. I want to be realistic, and I'm probably not relatable to everybody, but I'd rather just be honest about my life and other people be honest about their life. And this is not to complain, it's just to be honest. Like the American dream did exist 20, 30 years ago, but today, if you're a college graduate, you're not going to be able to afford to buy your own house unless you have some sort of social safety net that paid for you. And traveling is much harder. There's just a lot of things that other people think are so realistic that are not exactly, but I don't know. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. I'm not going to go on and on about it. You know, everybody has their own opinions about how things could be better. I think California needs to address their housing prices and food prices and things like that. But, you know, who knows? I guess some people just think it's perfect. It's not. There needs to be some work on these things. But thanks for watching.